Welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show, hosted by executive producers Dr. Michelle Stevens and co-host Coach Yava Swearington, as they focus on important issues within our society, from the highs and lows of surviving everyday life that are real, relevant, and engaging. And now, here are your hosts. Welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show. Today, during our show, we're going to be talking about marriage. A contract or covenant. Is it sacred? Does it lack power? And so much more. Hi, I'm Dr. Stevens, your host. Thank you for tuning into Season 2, Episode 3 of the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show. Along with me is the co-host, Coach Yava Swearington.
Hello, and thank you, Dr. Stevens. Yes, I am your girl, Coach Yava Swearington. This is our third episode of Season 2. So let's get comfortable and grab your favorite beverage, because this is going to be an interesting conversation as we discuss some real heartfelt truth, beliefs, and realities of marriage, a contract or covenant.
Today, during this show, I want to find out, is marriage still to death do you part until the contract no longer works? But before we get started, we have some special guests with us today. Coach Yava, introduce our guest for us.
Well, we're excited to have Pastor Tanya Mitchell and radio host and advocate, Mr. David Hampton, with us today. Pastor Tanya, please take a minute to introduce yourself.
Praise the Lord, everybody. I am Pastor Tanya. I'm the founding pastor of Nothing But the Truth Ministries. The church has been in existence for 21 years. I share in the ministry with my husband. My husband and I have been married for 20 years. We just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary, but we've been together for 24 years. And so I am an individual that's passionate about people having healthy relationships.
And David Hampton, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
My name is David Hampton. I'm affectionately known as Teddy Mac. I just started an online radio station. I have an online show, the Teddy Mac Show. Actually, I'm an ordained pastor, Reverend Dr. David Hampton. I'm a big advocate for marriage and family, and that's what I stand for. I mean, I don't know what's going on right now, but we're going to sort it out.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Welcome, Pastor Tanya, and welcome, Pastor Reverend Teddy Mack. It is an awesome opportunity to have you both on the show. Thank you, first and foremost, for accepting our invitation. I really appreciate it. As we're getting started, as we said, our first topic here of conversation is contract versus the covenant. You know, spiritual foundation of marriage, is it gone or does it still exist? The difference between a contractual marriage versus a covenant marriage. Pastor Tanya, won't you dive in here and give us a perspective on marriage? And congratulations on 20 years of marriage. That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, when it comes down to marriage and how you view it, it definitely depends on where you are in your spiritual life, because there are individuals that don't have a relationship with God, are not into spiritual things as far as, you know, the Bible and what is said as far as that standard. So their marriage is not going to be based on what a believer's marriage is based on. You know, as believers in the kingdom of God, our marriages should be based upon, you know, the covenant of God, you know, uniting two people together, you know, till death do us part. We also are aware that that's not always the case, but again, how you view marriage, it plays a major role as to where you are in your spiritual life. Because a lot of people today don't even feel like you have to be married to be with the one that you're with for the rest of your life. That's why you got a lot of people that's just together, shacking up, been together for years, but they don't see the importance of marriage.
Pastor Teddy?
Like I said, I'm a major advocate for marriage. I think that the covenant marriage, to me, that would be more so like the two individuals that come together and they make their own covenant as far as what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, um, what's right and what's wrong. Now, as far as the contractual marriage, I'm not really a favor of that because that's man's interference. It's too much interference. I think it's just too much overreach with all these rules of telling you what you're supposed to make, how you're supposed to make it, what you're supposed to do. I think it's more of an organic process. I think that what works for the two people is what works for the two people. You know, some people don't follow traditional means and some people do. It just all depends on what works. But family is the core of everything. That's why everything is out of source right now because family is void of everything. Everything is the core of feelings and finances and material things. You know, I remember back when I used to date my first love, we would go to Swenson's down Georgetown and have a great time. We spend like $16 and get a burger, fries, and a shake and be loving it. Now, you know, women like you got to spend $300 on dinner. I'm like, what's that about?
You know, Pastor Teddy, $16 only barely serve one person at McDonald's these days. So, you know, that's how that one goes.
Right. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm saying is it doesn't have to be all these different requirements as far as if we go out, you got to spend this, you got to drive that, you got to do. I think, you know, more so you would have more so a better response if you join together on a more organic premise, because everything else you can build, all this material stuff, if you work together, you can acquire that. You know,
that's what you say, Pastor Teddy. But we're going to get deeper into that. But on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more. We're going to get more into that. But we're going to be definitely talking about sex and spirituality. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Lady Mia, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS show, hosted by executive producers Dr. Michelle Stevens and Coach Yava Swearington, as they share in-depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A conversation you don't want to miss. Also, don't forget to visit them online at www.drsnsshow.com.
Welcome back. As I was saying, we're going to be talking about sex and spirituality, but I want to get back to where Pastor Teddy left off on some of the things that expectations that we bring into these relationships. Before we go to Pastor Teddy, Pastor Coach Swearington, do you have something you want to add in here?
No, I found what he said interesting, but I'm going to cover another topic.
All right, Pastor Tanya. Something he said, we bring a lot of expectations, and we're going to go more into this, into these relationships. And when we finish about these expectations, I want to go into really get into sex and spirituality, because, you know, those two things, there's a lack of balance in there. But let's talk about some of the expectations he talked about in there.
I mean, when it comes down to expectations, you know, to each his own. Everyone's expectation is not going to be the same. When you are seeking to be married, you know, deciding on who you want to spend the rest of your life with, it's nothing wrong with having your desires of what you are looking for in a mate. Some people may deal with more of the financial setup. You got some people that deal with the physical setup. They feel like if it's a man, he got to be 6'1", he got to have this and be this build and things of that nature. But let me tell you something. The only expectation that I had when seeking to be married and having a desire for that was I wanted a man that loved God. Point blank, period. Because I didn't want a church goer, so to say, somebody that just went to church out of habit and routine. I didn't want somebody that was just saved and that was it, because I knew that if I had a man that loved God, first and foremost, he will know how to love me the way that I need to be loved. And to me, that is very, very important. So his ability to be able to treat me as the wife that I am will come a lot from his relationship with God. God teaches us through his word how to deal with people, how to love people, how to forgive people. Because trust me, forgiveness is the main thing you're going to need a whole lot of in a marriage.
A
Hmm.
Because,
whole lot of, and
Absolutely.
something you
ongoing.
said,
Absolutely.
and something you said, Pastor Tanya, was you wanted a man that loved the Lord, and what I find out is that if you have a man that loves God, he has a whole lot of patience to deal with you. You know, and as you said, forgiveness, you're gonna need a whole lot of forgiveness. Pastor Teddy, I want you to speak on that part there. The men that love the Lord.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to love the Lord. That's the base of everything. It's God, man, woman, and child. So if the God is not the head of it, then it's doomed to be failed. Because what exactly is trickling down? If you don't have God trickling down on the man to trickle down to the woman to trickle down to the kids, it's like a code of conduct. It's like when God shows the man how to act and how to shine, that he puts that light into his wife, and his
Hmm.
wife puts that light into their children. And
Well,
then
that would take us right into our next topic, belief or unbelief. You know, sex and spirituality. There's a struggle. And some people struggle with the balancing of faith and desire with with religious teaching and sexual behavior, especially in America culture. Sex has taken on this prominence. It's everywhere. The women run around naked. Just I haven't grasped it yet. I have not gotten the concept of women wearing dresses that you can just see through. They leave nothing to desire. But there's such an imbalance in that. Anyone can jump in who give us some light and thought on what you think is happening here today.
Well, I tend to think that people have just gotten so far away from what this whole marriage thing is all about. I mean, I think you have to be intentional when you're thinking about getting married with someone. And I think we lack that, and I think we have the wrong concept or the wrong idea of, what we're supposed to be having or looking for in a marriage. And some women, to me, I think they feel like, I just want to get married. They don't care who and whether the person has God in their life or not. They just looking to get married. And
Pastor
I think
Tanya?
and I think that's the issue. One of the main issues with females is I think men are more intentional, and I think that's why they take their time to choose a wife. But women, nah, they not.
Well, you talked about the advanced sex part that's going on in the world and the lack of respect for the way women are dressing and things of that nature. Perversion is just at an all-time high, but it's nothing new. See, one
Hmm.
thing about it, sexual perversion and lust has been around since the beginning of time. What happens is with everything is that with each generation, things get worse and worse and worse. I mean, you take it back to generations ago when, you had the silent generation and maybe their biggest issue was, let's just say, alcohol. But then you fast forward in today, we got all kinds of drugs. Things have progressed, they have advanced. So it just gets worse with each generation. So perversion is out of control. The media promotes it, the music promotes it, everything promotes it. So we begin to think that this is acceptable. But just because something is in your face all the time doesn't mean it's acceptable. The enemy wants to put stuff in our face so much to desensitize us, to make us
Hmm.
think that there's nothing wrong with it. But again, how you view things and even how people dress plays a major role as to where you are spiritually. And so many people have gotten away from the foundation of God and the word.
Absolutely,
Hmm.
absolutely. Pastor Teddy, Coach Yava said something. She said, men take their time in choosing where women are more in a hurry. So they act a little more desperate. Give me your take on that perspective from a man's perspective on men and their desire to be married.
I would say she's right. Um, I was with my ex-wife over 20 years. I met her when I was 13. I was with her till I was almost 40, you know. And it's just a, how can I put it? How can I put it? Say what you just said again.
Coach Yava, say what you said.
I said that women tend to. I think
Right,
the
right.
men. I
I
think
got
that
you. I
people
got
need
you. I
to
got
be
you. I'm
more
sorry. I got
intentional,
you.
and I think
I
that
got you.
women are not.
Right, right. Okay, that's what it was. Okay, all right. I'm sorry. I had a brainstorm for a
It's
moment.
okay. It's all right.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, she's right. I mean, because since I've been divorced, um, woman just told me the other day. She said, "Boy, you want a hard dude to get through to," because I'm more intentional. I'm looking at certain things. I'm not the type of person that's going to keep making the same mistakes.
Mhm.
When I see something, I grow from it, and I just stand on it. I mean, I don't want to just be with you because you a woman, or I want to be with you. Like she say, a lot of time women want they want the wedding, but they don't want the marriage. They don't want the responsibility. They don't want the accountability. They don't want the. They just want to look good, take pictures. Everything now is like a photo op.
Hmm.
Nobody is down to brass tacks. Everybody just want to look good, and when the camera's off, they're like, "Oh, I'm done with that." And that's basically what it is, down to a 30-second TikTok. Like I said before, the microwave ruined this, because the microwave created a 30-second society. Everybody want things in 30 seconds or a minute, or they don't want it. It's just like, they lose, they lose attention, they lose focus. And it should be more, I'm more intentional. I mean, I'm gonna look at you and look at certain things, and if I see it, I'm not gonna fake with you. I'm like, one woman was like, "Well, I mean, we ain't even do enough." I'm like, "Why I need to waste time doing something with you? I already saw I don't want you like that. So why I need to, escalate and go there? That's just a waste of time."
Well, that's a good point. That's a good segue into our next topic of conversation. Double standard, the generational shift, how the new generation views sex versus the old generation. Because, as Pastor Tanya said, perversion just on an all-time high. And, as the lady you was talking to was like, we haven't even done anything, meaning we haven't even had sex and you made a decision.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
give us your take on that, because I think this newer generation, sex really doesn't. I don't think it even mean a whole lot to them. Women don't keep themselves as the older women used to. It doesn't have a lot of value. And when I see some of them these days, I be like, do you not realize how valuable that is? Pastor Teddy?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, a lot of people are totally disconnected, from that. And like I say, I don't, I gotta tell them, I don't have to, sleep with you. I mean, that's going, if we vibe, and that's going to happen. I mean, I don't have to make that the primary focus,
Absolutely.
because that's going to throw everything off, because you got so many people end up with somebody that, like I told my buddy years ago, and he called me every day. He was laughing, but he was like, "Man, you was right." I said, "Man, stop sleeping with that woman right there, because she's not the right type of woman for you, and you're gonna slip up one day, you're gonna get her pregnant, and you ain't gonna be able to get rid of her." And they got a baby, the baby 20, and the kid is 20, and and he got stuck with her, slipped up, made that mistake, and I'm like, the kid suffered for it.
Yes.
Pastor Tanya?
The kid suffered for it. The kid didn't have all it needed to be able to,
absolutely.
Be fortified coming up.
The result, the consequences are the last thing they think of.
Right. It's all about a feeling.
Yes, the consequences are the last thing that they're thinking of when they are definitely trying to have a desire fulfilled. Pastor Tanya.
Well, Pastor Teddy said something that stood out to me. Because you said you was dealing with the young lady, and you was like, she was bringing out the fact that we ain't did nothing yet, and then you said, well, we ain't got to do that right now, and we vibe, and eventually that's gonna happen. So my thing is, where does the thought of the standard of God's standards come in place? Because I didn't hear anything about trying to not pursue that until we actually get married. It's almost like, once we get to know each other and kick it a little bit, that eventually come. But the problem today is that everybody dates backwards, because we bring what we did in the world into the church. And what we did was we met you, we had sex with you, then we tried to get to know you. But sex clouds your judgment and ability to be able to see clearly. So when it comes down to, are we really standing on the standards of God's word, or are we trying to have a double standard? We want to do
Mhm.
certain things according to God, but when it comes down to our flesh, oh, I'm gonna get my groove on. I got to test drive the car first. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
we gotta, we gotta think differently.
Mhm.
Mm.
We gotta
That's gonna
think
that's gonna
differently.
be that's gonna be another show there, Pastor Tanya. Test
Yeah.
drive it first.
Yeah. I'm
She
gonna
right.
tune in. I'm gonna tune in on this particular question here because the question was, double standard, and I don't think it's a double standard at all. I tend to think that with the younger generation is it's the attitude towards sex. It's definitely been a shift. I think I remember being young and thinking about if you didn't talk about sex. You didn't mention it to your friend. Now you talk about sex. They open. They're more open and accepting. They talk about sex to anybody now, and I think that with the older generation it's totally different because they're more into what we would say traditional style. You know what I'm saying? And they look at younger generations not looking at from a spiritual perspective at all. Half of them not even in church. You know what I'm saying? And so I just think that it's just totally different from those two, and it's not a double standards between the two because one is more traditional and one is not. That's
Well,
how I kind of feel
I will
about that.
say this: for in my household, when I grew up, we talked about everything. We talked about sex. We talked about it. We talked about it openly.
Mm-hmm.
We talked about sex, sexual positions, what desire with my parents. They set us down. We had a conversation. But I was in a household with two parents where we all went to church. We came up in a time when the whole neighborhood went to church. Y'all know you
Mm-hmm.
used to have a whole church buzz. So the shift, there's as Pastor Tanya said, people are not even serving God. That is the last thing on their mind
Absolutely.
when it comes to their sexuality and their spirituality. That's the imbalance. That's the shift. That's the double standard where people just don't even fear God. That is the least of their thoughts and concerns.
Mhm.
Right there on that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the 50-50 rule when
Mhm.
marriage becomes a contract. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens, a certified master life and wellness coach and minister of the gospel. I help women move from stagnation to certainty, uncover who they are, create goals, and build strategies to success. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with me, and let's jumpstart your journey to a new beginning. You may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com, or you may call 866-377-7469, extension 801. Let me help you heal mind, body, and soul. Step out of ordinary into extraordinary.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show, the SNS show, The Cousins. I am one of your executive producers and co-host, Coach Yava Swearington. I am a professional, certified life coach and relationship consultant. Looking forward to helping individuals with what matters. You may contact us at toll-free 1-866 377 7469, extension 800, or you may reach us by email at contact us at drsnsshow.com. That is contact us at drsnsshow.com. Looking forward, let's have a conversation.
The 50-50 rule. This rule suggests that responsibilities are equal. Well, I personally don't like this concept. Okay. Because I don't think it's ever been 50-50 in a relationship when it comes to responsibilities in a marriage or anything like that. I tend to think that whether it's a contract or a covenant or not, one thing for certain it's an agreement between two people. That's what I tend to feel about it. And in regards to specific obligations and responsibilities, I feel that each person should have clarity, fairness and balance in their expectations of each other, and that should be discussed and adjusted according as life goes on. And then I tend to think that they should have this conversation early on in the relationship versus later in the relationship. Then that's my take on the 50-50 rule.
Coach, yes. Pastor Tanya, what's your thoughts on the 50-50 rule?
I don't agree with the 50-50 rule. I believe that, both parties in a relationship, they give 100 to whatever it is that they do, and you have to set what's going to be the standard for your house.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend, and we were out the other day, and in her household, she doesn't do any cooking. She's never cooked. Her husband is the one that cooks. She doesn't really know how to cook, and that has worked for them. But when you look at traditional things, we try to give assignments to the husband or to the wife based off of traditional things. And for real, it's about what works for you and your household,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's what I just feel. It's about what works for you and your household. You cannot base your marriage off of what your grandma did, what your mama did, and what all these other people did. You got to know what works for you and your spouse, because it's not a cookie cutter formula.
And
But
that has
whatever you do, give 100.
Yeah, that has a lot to do with people's strengths in their relationships, where one is stronger in certain categories or areas of interest, and someone is something else. And that's how I look at my marriage. Where I'm strong, I flourish in, and where my husband picks up where I'm not, and that gives us a good balance.
Well,
Yes.
Pastor Tanya, you said something. You said something of what works in their household. And um, Pastor Teddy, you can chime in after I make this statement here. We have people, and we're going to talk about this a little later, but we have people who grew up in single parent households, and especially women who have seen their mothers were single the whole time they were coming up, and they go into relationships and into marriage viewing how their mother conducted herself, or what the mottos or decisions and rules that they decided that they want to live by going into a relationship. And so, and I believe in having the rules and obligation and responsibilities are distorted. Pastor Teddy?
Yeah, you made a great point, and I was talking about that as well. About we all learn from example. Um, the best learning is demonstrative. You demonstrate. You can't beat that. And the only way for you to pass on any type of strong tradition is through example. Like I was telling a friend of mine the other day, I'm a real big advocate of National Geographic and nature shows. And I remember I was watching this show one time where the lady was, she had the basket on her head and she was trying to go and look for food or whatever. She was trying to tell the kid, stay back, don't follow me. And she would go a few paces, she'd turn around right behind her. She would even scold the child, punish them, go back. No matter what she done, that child was right behind her. So what that tell you is the kids are going to follow your example. And if you don't provide an example of who's supposed to carry what role and how they're supposed to carry it, and just to go back with what Apostle Tanya said, I believe that there are traditional responsibilities, but not roles as far as like put on a certain person. Because just like in my marriage, I was with my ex-wife for 20 some years and she didn't cook. I cooked. I was the one who cooked. And it's so I was so that I got home earlier, way earlier. So why I'm gonna sit there and look stupid and wait for her to come home to cook when I'm already home. So, I straighten the house up and cook. And when she come home, she got something to eat, and it's a trade-off, like she said, you play on your strengths and weaknesses. And that's how you make things go. But you can't just say that, oh, well, he will be better at doing this because I'm a mechanic by trade. And I know some females that work on cars better than men. Now, you can't say that in the household that's the male responsibility, because I know of a time where it would alternately be changing the car, but what the wife changed it and the husband didn't know what he was doing, So I believe in traditional responsibilities, but not assign roles to whoever. It just, like you say, it's whatever it fits, however it fits, it works, No such thing as 50-50. It's never going to be 50-50. I don't care what you try. you can get a bag of sugar and it's always going to be a granule more on one side than the other. You're never going to get 50-50.
Absolutely.
Just make it fair and balanced. That's all it needs to be, fair and balanced.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, that takes us into this next conversation here. Is the covenant sacred? Do you believe individuals who engage in early sexual experience have a harder time viewing marriage as a sacred covenant rather than a legal contract? And, I sit and watch people who get married or engage in their marriage as if it's a contract. And the only thing I don't ever remember signing a contract. I remember signing a marriage license. Anybody can jump in on that one.
Say that again. Say that again. What it is that you're asking again. Let me hear that again.
Okay. Do you believe individuals who engage in early sexual experiences have a harder time viewing marriage as a sacred covenant rather than a legal contract?
Okay.
Is it sacred to them? Is marriage sacred to them when they engage in sex early?
Well, let me try to engage a little bit while Apostle ponder on that a little bit more, because that's kind of deep. I tend to think that I don't know, individuals who engage early in sexual experiences may view marriages with a skeptical lens, but I don't think it's a universal truth. I believe multiple factors contribute to each person's perception of marriage. I think each person's experiences and backgrounds are unique. And while some may struggle with viewing marriage as sacred, others may deepen their beliefs about commitment based on their journeys, based on their experiences, what they went through in life. So that's my take on that.
Well, I believe that sex before marriage and, experience and all, I believe that does affect you, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what most of us did before coming into a relationship with the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
We engaged in a lot of sexual relationships with people. We didn't know God's thoughts about it because we didn't even know God like that. We didn't know his word on it. We didn't know his standards on it. When you come into a relationship with God and you learn that it is something that God wants to be done between a husband and a wife, your views change about it. It can be something that you actually look forward to, because I know with me and my husband, when we dated, the first 6 months of us meeting and dating, we were sexually intimate. But for the next 4 years, we did not have sex with each other, touch each other, kiss each other, do anything. And so it was an exciting moment on our anniversary. On our wedding night, because that was the first time in my whole entire life where I had sex and it wasn't a sin. And I knew it was something that God glorified. You know what I'm saying? It really did make a difference, because prior to knowing God, I didn't see anything wrong with it. But then when I got into a relationship with God and was given to my flesh, it bothered me. I knew it was something that's supposed to be sacred and special between a man and a woman. So for us to shut it down for those 4 years and to just be able to experience that, my daddy all right with this. God ain't got a problem with this, because it's done in the right context. But sometimes that sex before marriage can mess you up, because if you were a person that had sex with multiple people, and let's just say if you was out there running the streets and you was a player, that's how I used to, call myself, like a female Mac, for real. And so, having sex with these different individuals that I'm not really in a relationship with, I didn't allow you to get close to my heart. I knew how to give you my body without connecting to me. I knew how to turn you out sexually, physically, but there was nothing emotionally and mentally. And so when you get into a habit of performing like that, when you get into the right type of union, now it's like, I got to learn how to do this thing right, because I need to be able to connect my heart to this moment. But when you've done it in such a disconnected way for so long, when you just out there doing your thing, it can affect you.
Mm-hmm.
It can affect
Mm-hmm.
you. So,
Yeah. Pastor Teddy. That's what I mean. Is it sacred? Pastor Teddy, your take.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship should be sacred.
Should I ask the question? Should I make the statement again to
No,
get you
no,
the
no.
context?
You're saying that if you engage in sexual in sexual
Early.
early in life, does it skew your view towards marriage? I would say individually, no. Um, I would say it would be a few more things that would have to impact that view. Because I know people who had sex on the first night and end up getting married and still together. So it really, it just like I said, it all depends on the two people and what all the other things that goes into the whole relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I wouldn't say independently the sex thing by itself would be, but I would say having a whole lot of sexual partners throughout your life before you get married can mess you up as far as
Absolutely.
getting married, because not if not just on a psychological level, on a physical level, DNA is real.
DNA is real.
DNA is real. You got men just dropping their,
DNA.
multiple over and over and over, and multiple men. That does affect your DNA and your pH balance.
Mm-hmm. Well,
not
not only
only does
that,
it affect the DNA, but it's STDs are real too, sexually
Yeah,
transmitted
yeah,
demons.
yeah. Of course,
Look,
of course.
sexually transmitted demons. Because
Yeah,
when
Mm.
you
yeah.
well
out
now,
there going from person to person, there's
That's
a
what me and my
lot of
brother
stuff that's
called.
being transferred.
Just like we were
absolutely.
talking earlier about the women wandering around half naked and sex all over the place. That's just a demon. That's a
Yes.
demon. That's a demon roaming the earth right now. That's a demon that's out of control, that's unchecked because we don't have family. We don't have the order of family, because if it was a man in the household being led by God to lead his family right and stand up against that, because my daughter, I mean, I'm not saying she's somebody like special, but she's special to me. That's my baby. But
Right.
I
Absolutely.
worked hard from the beginning, and raised my daughter. My daughter is nobody's baby mother. I just married my daughter to her husband last year, June the 9th. And she's well balanced, She's doing what she's supposed to do. She don't have a bunch of kids running all over the place. She don't have a bunch of men, running. I told my daughter, this is my thing, and she'll tell you right now, from a little girl. And people just say, don't say that to her. She's little. She understands, because I told her from the beginning, I need to meet your husband before I meet my grandkids.
That's right.
That's the bottom line. That's
Well,
what I need to meet your husband before I meet my grandkids. And that's just
well,
the bottom line.
you said something, Pastor Teddy. You say you taught your daughter, and it takes us back to the standards again. As I was saying, I grew up in a two-parent household. It makes a difference in a girl's life when she has her father present, one, and instructing her, two. So your daughter had an influence, and it gave her a perspective of what a man is supposed to look like, versus, as I stated before, a lot of these females today grew up in single female
Right.
household with
Right.
women raising them. So their perspective on sex, sexuality, spirituality, conduct, the value of themselves is totally different. Whereas your daughter had it instilled in her that her body, her vagina, had value.
Right. And she knows that. And
Yeah,
we don't
it
play
took
them
her,
type of games.
so, and that would take us straight into our next, Coach Java, before we go into our next topic, did you have something you want to say?
Mm-mm. Y'all
Well,
said it.
that's going to take us straight into our next topic. Rewriting the script, the lack of the covenant, does it work? The difference between a contractual marriage and a covenant marriage is the absence of grace. And Pastor Tanya, we talked about that earlier, with getting with a man who loves the Lord, because he has forgiveness, he has a greater level of grace. Is there divine accountability? Pastor Teddy, you raised a daughter, you instilled in her where she made men accountable and
Right.
unconditional love, so
And
is
most of
there,
all,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. Most of all, I think that we need to instill accountability in our kids, because it's not what they do when you around, it's what they do when you're not around. You
Absolutely.
know, because I tell my daughter, I say, look, I say, here's daddy's way of doing things. Whenever I get confronted with a situation to do something that may be questionable, whatever it is, I think to myself, would I have a problem telling you that I did that? Would I have a problem admitting to you what I did, my misconduct? And if I'm gonna have a problem being ashamed telling you what I just done, it's probably not a good thing to do. See, certain things, certain guardrails you can install in your life that have you so that, like right now, I mean, I'm not a bad looking guy. I mean, I can have women all the time, but I don't. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I mean, I've gotten the beef. When I first moved back from Florida to DC, my cousin's wife used to make little emphasis like I was a fruitcake or something, because, or a little fruity or whatever, because she never seen it with a woman. But oh, that wasn't my focus. My focus was to get myself straight so I could pour back into my daughter, and I could build myself up and build something for her. You know, women gonna come. It's women outnumber men exponentially. You know, so
Mhm.
why would I worry about that? And I don't worry about quantity. I worry about quality.
Well,
Yeah, I see
you said something, Pastor Teddy, about the respect and instilling in the children, and I want to go back to the women, as we were talking about how, you know, them not respecting themselves and the standards that we set. One of the things my father used to always tell us, you know, when we started dating, he was like, you cannot date a man, you cannot go out with a guy, and I was a teenager, if he does not come and knock on this door. He had to knock on the door to pick us up. You would not be leaving out the house, going to jump in somebody's car, and we don't know whose car you done jumped into. Before my sister and I could go out, my parents, not only did the guy had to come to the door, he had to show his driver's license, and my parents wrote down his tag number to know exactly who we were with, what car they were driving, how to identify. You know, that taught responsibility and self-respect. But not only that, it set a standard for the guy that was coming to even date us. And the one thing I realized today is the standards, and that's when I was talking about the double standard and the shift in the generations today. The standards are so low, because I know when I see women, they walking with guys, I know I wouldn't walk with them just from the appearance of their clothing.
Mm.
Pastor Tanya.
Mm-hmm.
The standards have definitely changed. Dating has definitely changed. Like you said, a lot of homes today are raised by single family mothers, you know, so it's not a father for many of them to come and meet. Social media allows it where people just slide up in your inbox, so you start connecting to somebody strongly that way, and eventually, you know, hook up with them, you know. But one thing about the standards, no matter whether you're a single parent, you know, or you're a father or a two-parent home, you can set the standards in your house and you can teach your children the right things. Like you said, teaching your child that the vagina has a value, right? You can teach them that, but that don't mean that they do it the way God wanted them to. You
Mm-hmm.
can tell them, you know, because I know you had shared like with your daughter, she just got married, but it's like, was she a virgin up until the day she got married? That's a question that I would ask, because, you know, as you being her father and laying the foundation, what it does not take away is free will. We all have free will. So even though the standards are put in place and we raise them the right way and tell them things they should or should not do, they still gonna make a difference. So when it comes down to the standards of God, whether they sleep with one person or 100 people, both of them is wrong, because sleeping with one person outside of marriage does not please God, and sleeping with 100 don't please God.
Hmm.
So we got to, you know, we got to make sure that, you know, we close loopholes, because sometimes we'll try and find ways to justify some things, but everybody has free will. That's the problem with the world today. God gave it to us, right? Free will.
And
So
they
we
running
get
with
to
it.
choose whether we're gonna live for him or not. They get to choose whether they're gonna listen to us or not. Our kids got free will. We can tell them don't go in there and get no cookies, and they'll go in there and get some cookies anyway, and then lie in your face and say they ain't got no cookie, and you see the crumbs all around their mouth.
And
Free
another
will
problem,
allows them to do that.
and the other problem you have with that whole thing there, the who's teaching who, because some of these parents, some of these women having these children, they don't know what to teach. That is not being passed down to the children. And they running around rapping out here like with no structure, no foundation, no nothing. And then you can't tell them nothing on top of it because they think they know more than what the parent who had them. So I don't know. It's just a crazy world out there to me.
But a lot of people just wanted sex. A lot of people just wanted sex. They weren't trying to have kids. They was trying to have sex.
Right.
That kid just happened to come along, and so now they find themselves in motherhood and fatherhood. But
that still goes back to the lack of education and lack of knowing how to protect yourself and all these other things that they should have been more wanting to know about that before they decide to lay if you don't really want to have the baby.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, we're going to tell you how to write into our show. We'll be right back.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Lady Mia, asking you to join the conversation on the SNS show, hosted by executive producers Dr. Michelle Stevens and Coach Yava Swearington, as they share in-depth conversations on relationships, health and wellness, important issues in our society, to the highs and lows of surviving everyday life. Streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show. That's DRSANDSSHOW. Monthly every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. A conversation you don't want to miss. Also, don't forget to visit them online at www.drsnsshow.com.
Welcome back. If you have a situation and need some advice, please send us a cherry note. Write to contact us at drsnsshow.com and please title it the cherry note. And we will respond to you during our show in response to your note. Our next topic is boys will be boys. When men experience sex early, do you believe this has an impact on how they view marriage? Pastor Teddy.
I'm gonna be as vague about this as possible, but I had an early experience, and it didn't skew my. I think for men we internalize it a little different. I think to us it's more like a gathering of experience because our main goal is to try to please our woman, to be the ultimate lover when it comes to that point of being a lover. So we'll gather different techniques and different experiences and just like put it in our little pocket until we need it, so to speak. But I don't think it would, because I'm still an advocate for marriage and I had early experiences that, earlier than what you would, normally, but, I don't know. But
Pastor Tanya.
I don't think sex plays a major role as to how they deal with marriage. Here's the challenge that I think. When we're raising our kids, a lot of times we tell our daughters, to just deal with one person, but we'll tell our sons sometimes, don't be tying yourself down with no one person, sow your wild oats, right? Mm-hmm. So then you got them dating multiple women at one time instead of trying to, you don't like it when they get caught up with just one. So now they get into a habit of dating multiple women at one time, which often will affect their ability to be in a committed marriage. Because when I've been a hoe all my life, having multiple women at one time, now I'm supposed to be committed in this marriage to one person. And the truth is, I don't know how to be committed because I ain't never been committed. Because I always dealt with multiple ones because that was, encouraged. And so I think that often affects one's ability when they get in marriage to be faithful.
And you said something, Pastor Tanya. You said that, we would set a standards for our daughters and not our sons. Pastor Teddy, you sound like you've got something you want to say.
Well, no, I mean, y'all knew my mother, and my mother was very intentional on raising me and my brother to be good husbands, good men. She never encouraged us to be out here with 4 or 5 different women, even though we was decent guys and women did come, but it was up to us to make the decision. My ex-wife can say a lot about me, but she can never, ever say that she ever had any woman call that house or her cell phone or whatever and say that I was doing anything with anybody. That's one thing I can boast about. My marriage didn't end because I was unfaithful. Okay. I was groomed by my mother because I'm like this. When you got that one woman, why would you? I mean, I don't have time to deal with all that other stuff. If I got a good woman right here, I just want to work with her. I don't want that other. That's distractions. And then you got to mix body fluids with outside women and stuff, and you got to bring that home now. That's nasty.
But you know what, Pastor Teddy? Now you're saying something. But you're older now. So how about when you were younger?
Now. But I'm talking about when I was younger. I said no. It never ultimately in the long run affected my mindset towards marriage. I think that would be more so like your upbringing. That goes back to upbringing, the type of father example that you have.
Absolutely.
You got a father that's out in the street cheating on your mother all the time, and she constantly going through drama, dealing with issues and stuff. That stuff trickles down.
Right.
You know, that stuff trickles down.
I'm gonna let me speak on it. Teddy Mac, I did know your mother, and that goes back to what we all were talking about, is how you were raised and your upbringing and what was the tone that was set in your house. You know, that came from a lot that you, Teddy, and your brother was the rare ones back in our days, you know. So because you got men out here who think they Daddy Mac, having every woman, you know, they got hoes, they pimps, and they not gonna think nothing like what you're saying because they didn't need the way they were raised. And contradictory to what Apostle said and you said, I'm not a boy, so I really can't speak on boys, but in my view about this conversation, I tend to think that it does have some type of influence on a man's view when it comes to relationship, because I think it connects to men's ability to have an emotional connection in relationships and women and stuff like that. I tend to think that it has it sets the expectation for relationships, like depending on what you've been through, what you've seen. Men views us the expectation of a relationship with a woman has been affected or changed to some capacity. And then and finally, I think it all has something to do with their ability to communicate about sex too in a relationship. So those are kind of some of the things where I feel that boys will be boys, but I do think that they're influenced in some kind of capacity. In regards to that.
I wanted to say something. And like you said, Teddy and his brother is rare. But Teddy, you being a man and you deal with men, and I know you hear men, and there so many women have issues today with men because of what they have experienced in relationships.
Absolutely.
You know, they'll say an angry black woman and different things of this nature. It's like, let's get to why they're angry. Let's get to why they're upset. And most of them have to go through so much healing because they've been hurt. You know, I know women that have literally said they have never, ever dated a man that didn't cheat on them. And so we know that that is a common thing that actually happens.
We got to write that down. That's a topic for another show then. The angry black woman and why.
It's real. And it has affected women, you know, and sometimes you meet one and they so scarred, but let's deal with why they're scarred. It's because a woman a lot of times will be faithful when she finds somebody she want to be with.
Absolutely.
It's not until sometimes something happened that she feel as though she gonna get back at him by stepping out of bounds, but that ain't never really was in her heart. Women's minds are being changed now where they're not even willing to put their all into it. But that cheating has affected women, and it has been going on a long time. I mean, let's look at the Bible. God's original plan was for Adam to be with Eve only. He didn't give him multiple women. But you will see as time goes on, because you can come across the first guy in the Bible that decided all of a sudden he wanted to have two wives. That was never God's original plan. So then even when you see some of the greatest spiritual men in the Bible, they still had issues with that flesh. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
You know, absolutely. So it's a real thing. And that's why you need a man that has a real relationship with God.
To understand all that.
What's going to really make the difference in how they are in a marriage. People tell me and my husband that we're rare. But I'm like, what we have is not impossible. God is our foundation. He has to be the source of both parties, not just one.
On that note, we're going to take a quick break. But before we go, if you have a product or a business and would like to advertise on our show or would like to support us, please email us at contactus@drsnsshow.com. Or you can call us at 866-377-7469. If you're interested in hosting your own show, please visit our website and click on the Media Production tab and schedule a session with the perfect production team. Let's bring your vision to life. We'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Dr. Michelle Stevens, a certified master life and wellness coach and minister of the gospel. I help women move from stagnation to certainty, uncover who they are, create goals, and build strategies to success. Schedule a 45-minute consultation with me, and let's jumpstart your journey to a new beginning. You may email me at contactus@drsnsshow.com, or you may call 866-377-7469, extension 801. Let me help you heal mind, body, and soul. Step out of ordinary into extraordinary.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show, the SNS show, The Cousins. I am one of your executive producers and co-host, Coach Yava Swearington. I am a professional, certified life coach and relationship consultant. Looking forward to helping individuals with what matters. You may contact us at toll-free 1-866-377-7469, extension 800, or you may reach us by email at contactus@drsnsshow.com. That is contact us at drsnsshow.com. Looking forward. Let's have a conversation.
Listen to the next topic. Take us into the topic, dominance and control. Which has more power, viewing the marriage as a contract or as a covenant?
Wow. I guess you want me to start off this conversation here.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I tend to believe that the perspective on this really varies from person to person. One is viewed from a legal and a practical perspective. People who lead from this tend to lead from what I would call a conditional commitment, and meaning that relationships are contingent upon something, in this type of relationship, and that people who tend to move from this perspective, these people, if you breach their contract or the agreement that they have come into each other, they will be quick to terminate the relationship, meaning get a divorce. And when it comes to a spiritual perspective, these people tend to lead from what they consider it to be sacred, and they tend to not be tend to be unconditional, meaning they foster more of a devotion. They're committed despite any changes or challenges that they go through in a relationship. These people will work things out more, and they will consider separation before divorce. So that's kind of how I kind of view it from the contractual side and the covenant side.
Tanya, Pastor Tanya?
Question: what do you mean by they will consider separation over divorce? Explain that.
No, I said the people who move from a contractor perspective, they will consider divorce quickly. As soon as you breach the contract, as soon as you didn't follow whatever they agreed to in this relationship, they're not moving from a biblical perspective or a spiritual perspective in any kind of ways of imagination. But people who are moving from a spiritual perspective, these people will go through all kind of changes and challenges with you. They're more willing to work in the relationship, work it out. Let's go to counseling. They're gonna go through some stuff before they consider divorce. They will possibly consider separation before they consider divorce. And that's kind of what I mean between the contractual side of it and spiritual side of it.
Okay,
or the covenant side, should I say?
So basically,
Yeah. So one would
separation with the
consider
ground.
one would consider separation. One would be like, we're going to divorce court. because they are pissed in this contractor relationship. This is not what we agreed to. This is not what we talked about, and you breached it. And it's not moved from the love of a heart. It's moved from a different perspective.
A fleshly perspective.
Yeah, maybe that's what you want to call it. This is totally separate. We're wanting the spiritual side. They're going to try to work it out and figure out where it went wrong, and let's get back on track. And their marriage is considered more sacred to them versus the contractual side.
Right. Because sometimes when people separate, they separate with the thought of being able to work on the marriage to try to restore it.
Right. Not that the contractual side won't, but their tendency to not is more greater than to,
Yes. I think when it comes down to the covenant part of marriage, I think a lot of times people don't really listen and take serious the vows, because the vows let you know straight up that you're going to have some ups and downs in this marriage. And you're saying that I'm willing to be with you in sickness and in health. Your spouse may be physically fit, wonderful, and some when you get married, but something takes place. They got a car accident that turns them into a paraplegic and things of that nature. And what you was used to getting out of that marriage, you won't be able to get it. But because you made a commitment, it's through sickness and in health, for rich or for poor. Oh, we like you when the money flowing, but a lot of times when it stops flowing and you reaching financial, challenges, now people want to get out of the marriage and things of that nature. But if you're going to deal with marriage from a covenant standpoint and really in God, you got to know going in there that both things are possible and most likely will take place in the midst of that marriage.
Well,
so
Pastor Teddy,
what before he speak on it, Apostle, I want to say something about that. I go back, I've been married 3 times in my life. And I can remember early on, and my father's a minister, but I remember early on, I was nowhere near the door of spirituality about nothing. And when I went, I was more about getting married and getting away from home, for me. And when I repeated those vows, I don't really know what he was saying. I was in the midst of I know I'm getting married. I'm just being honest. When I reflect and think back on that, I was young. I was in my 20s. All I knew was today was my wedding day and I'm getting married, right? But anything he said in between that, I'm just like, today is wedding day. Nothing else mattered to me in that.
Well, that's what Pastor Tanya said.
And I think that it has a lot to do with people who go for spiritual counseling prior to marriage than people who don't go spiritual. Because I didn't get no spiritual counseling. I didn't even go to my father. He didn't marry me the first time, and he married me the last time. Maybe that's why I'm doing 20 years. I'm 20 years in there, but it was first couple times around, nowhere near that door. It's just the way I feel about it.
Pastor Teddy.
Yeah, I would rather view my marriage as a covenant as opposed to a contract. The contract is just too much outside interference, and too much control from outside, from people who don't have nothing to lose or gain from the successful failure of my relationship and my family. The covenant to me comes more like with a covering from God. If you follow the instructions and you do and you live as God wants you to live, and you true to it, then I would prefer that better, because as opposed to us having issues and my wife running down to the court and telling some stranger what's going on and trying to get them to sort it out. Why not go to God and talk to God, and we can talk to God together in prayer and work it out. So to me, I think the covenant will always be better than the contract, because that's something that can be interfered with. It's man-made, and it's controlled by man, and it's where you end up in front of a judge, somebody who know nothing about you. You're nothing but a case number. Through my divorce, they do unscrupulous things. They don't care nothing about you. They'll wreck your whole life. Through my divorce, I always been a great father, and my ex-wife admit that too. My ex-wife lawyer put me on child support, and none of us knew it until I looked at my check one day and saw money coming out. And I told my wife, I told my ex-wife, I was like, "What? You put me on child support?" She's like, "No, I ain't put you on child support." She called a lawyer. "Oh, I thought I would put him on child support for you." My ex-wife had to take off from work to go to the court and tell them to take me off of child support because we weren't having issues like that. And the judge was still trying to get her to do. He was like, "Are you sure you wasn't threatened or whatever?" And threaten your life to get you to do this, whatever. I mean, it's a racket, and it's all for their benefit. You know, judges get kickbacks for child support and all these different orders they put in place. It's a racket. It has nothing to do with the benefit of your children, because if you have children that result from that marriage, I mean, it ain't about you once the kids come. That's a lot of people tend to forget, and a lot of people are getting their feelings, and they'll put their feelings before the marriage instead of putting the marriage before the feelings.
Absolutely. But Pastor Tanya and Coach says something. Pastor Tanya says most of the time when people are getting married, they're not even paying attention to the vows. And Coach Yava proved it. Like she said, the first time she got married, you know, she just her thing was trying to get out the house. But this is bringing us to the close of our show. But before we close out, we want to have some final words from our guest. Pastor Teddy,
Yes.
give us some advice you would give our audience before we close.
I'm going to say, like I said at my daughter's wedding, keep people out your business. Those who have the least to lose will have the most to say. You know, they're always going to say something. At the end of the day, it goes even back to the feminism thing. I was telling a friend of mine, everybody who's Gloria Steinem, all these different ones, telling you to leave your marriage, leave your man. But guess what, though? All of them was married. All of them went home to a man. But they following bad advice from people who have no dog in the fight. So keep people out your business. Keep your business to yourself. And don't let anybody come in between your pack between you and your family. Family is everything.
I would say to anybody that has a desire to get married, seek premarital counseling. And I'm not talking about just 1 or 2 sessions. Intense premarital counseling that covers everything from finances to, if it is a blended family, communication, physical, sexual parts of the marriage. I mean, seek marriage counseling. Premarital counseling. I cannot tell you how many people that I know have ended up in me and my husband's office for marriage counseling. And I always go back to the beginning, you know, and usually there's nothing that took place in the beginning and they end up divorcing, because a lot of times they come when they already in winter season, you know, in the marriage. And that's the roughest phase. Some people don't come out of that. But seek marriage counseling. And I would say to every married couple, have an accountability couple. I believe that it's important to be in relationships with other people that are married, because you will go through things in your marriage and you need to talk to someone sometimes other than your spouse. So have an accountability marriage couple that you are truly connected to, that can be with you on the journey.
Coach Yava.
Well, I'm going to say this. One thing's for certain, it's an agreement when it comes to marriage, a contract or a covenant. And based on your personal belief or your inner truth, whatever shit's greater, it's going to lead it. That's what I have to say about that.
Please join us the 4th Thursday in December for the next hot topic. In this show, you will be surprised. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Make it sizzle, make it hot. Hello, tune in to the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show, The Cousins.
I'm Dr. Stevens, executive producer and host of the Dr. Stevens and Swearington Show.
And I'm Coach Swearington, executive producer and co-host.
Where all of our topics are real, relevant, and engaging. Streaming on YouTube and Facebook every 4th Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern and 7 Central Time. Please join us. If you have a situation and are looking for answers, email us and address it to the Cherry Note, and we will respond during our show. If you have a story and would like to be a guest on our show, email us at contactus@drsnsshow.com or call 866-377-7469.
Make it sizzle.
Make it hot.
And
we're
the Cousins.
The Cousins. welcome back. I would like to thank you and to say, please join us on our next show. I want to thank our guests. Coach, you can bring our guest up. Pastor Tanya, Pastor Teddy Mack, thank you so much for joining the Dr. Stevens and Swearington show. It was such a pleasure having you on our show. I look forward to taking one of those topics I wrote down from the discussion here and have you back on our show again. Absolutely a pleasure. Ladies, if you're looking to make a change or in need of a coach, please go to our website and book an introductory session with myself. I'm Dr. Stevens. I am a Master Certified Life Coach and Coach Yava. Remember, sometimes help is necessary. Never be ashamed to get the help that you need. Coach Yava?
And I'm Coach Yava Swearington, a certified life coach and relationship expert. Thank you for watching. Until next time.
Make it sizzle.
Make it sizzle. Make it
Make
hot.
it hot.
Hey, it's your girl, Coach Mia, inviting you to join us on the next SNS show with Dr. Stevens and Coach Swearington, streaming live on YouTube at DRSNS Show every fourth Thursday at 8 p.m. A conversation you don't want to miss. And don't forget to like and subscribe to watch all our current and previous shows.